access my UK pension overseas. So before we get started, Jake, can you just give us a little bit of an overview, a bit more context to this subject, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so there's two main ways you can access a pension overseas. It depends on the options that your pension scheme offers you. So I'm mainly going to be talking about defined contribution schemes here, because if you've got a defined benefit scheme, then you just contact the scheme, give them your bank details, and you can access the pension like that. But with a defined contribution scheme or a SIP or a tier ops, it's about contacting them, finding out what options they offer, and then deciding which option to take. So with a key ops, for example, you can take flex access drawdown. Same goes with a SIP, and then with a defined contribution scheme, depends when the scheme was set up, because before 2015 they were set up to just take an annuity, and then Pensions Freedom came in when they brought in the option of flexible drawdown. So if your pension scheme only offers an annuity, for example, you need to contact the pension scheme that you're with and ask them if it's accessible in the country of where you're living, because 9 times out of 10 it's not. And even me as a financial advisor, I cannot offer an annuity to someone outside of the UK. And this is a Brexit thing. So before Brexit, it wasn't an issue, but then post Brexit, they still haven't sorted it out to allow people to take an annuity. And it seems like such a simple thing to do, but it does restrict people. And we often get people apply directly on the website and they say, right, I've been accessing my pensions for many years. I've just updated my address to my address overseas. And my pension scheme has said, actually, you can't take any money from your pension anymore. You've got to move to someone that gives you access. So nobody wants to be in that situation.
No.
Reading the paperwork isn't enough. You have to contact the pension scheme, call them, and get them to put it in writing that you do have access or not. Now, the other option is flexible drawdown. So this means you can just spend the money however you want. So if you wanted to take ad hoc lump sums, you wanted to take it as an income per month, you wanted to stop it, start it, however you want it, you can do that via flexible drawdown. But again, this may not be available if you're outside of the UK. So again, it's important to contact the pension scheme and find out if they do actually have this option. Some pension schemes have no drawdown options. So in these circumstances, you would have to transfer. And if you are going to live overseas, you want to make sure you can transfer to a pension that's available for non-UK residents. Because if you contact just a UK SIP, for example, most of those are not going to be available to you because you're outside of the UK. Plus, if you're living outside of the UK, you're going to remain outside of the UK. It may make sense to have a pension scheme that is available in the currency of where you're living. Otherwise, you're taking on currency risk from the UK for the rest of your life. And if you spent most of your years working in the UK, you've got a UK state pension, you've got UK income from other assets, you want to make sure you can diversify into different currencies as well. So moving it into a pension scheme that has a different currency option can make a lot more sense. If you did have the money in a SIP, for example, and the underlying platform of what you invest into was in a different currency, they still have to withdraw that money to the pension scheme to register with HMRC in pounds, but then it goes to your bank account, and it just means you're not taking the currency risk of whilst the money is invested.
Yeah. And what sort of currencies do they have option wise? Is it a wide range depending on where you're living?
It depends on the option that you decide to choose. So generally it's pounds, euros, dollars, could be Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, Swiss francs, and Japanese yen. So those are really the main options that are available. But if you are outside of the UK, one thing you have to think about as well is often these pension schemes are only available through an advisor. So if you contacted the pension scheme and said, I want to set up a pension, they're going to tell you that you have to find an advisor to set it up for. So it's quite a niche. It's why there are a lot of financial advisors in the offshore market that do provide this type of advice, because it's something that people are crying out for. And if you are an expat, you're going to remain overseas, then it's about finding the right advisor that's going to do that for you, someone that you can trust, someone that has a good reputation, and someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And so, if I've got a UK pension in the UK, what is the best next steps for me? After speaking to an advisor, how would you hold my hand essentially in getting understanding the accessibility and those sorts of things?
So we would first assess what your pension scheme is, what access you do have, and if the pension scheme's any good. So a lot of these schemes could be invested poorly. They have a UK bias towards their investments. They could be
Yeah.
expensive, a lack of investment options. So all of those things play a part in whether they should transfer. But if you have no options to access the pension, then you have to transfer. So
Yeah.
if that was the case, we would still review everything else, but it's a clear-cut decision that you have to transfer. And then we would assess where you're going to be living, the size of your pension pot, how you plan to invest that money between now and retirement and post-retirement. We're there to help as well. We actually take on the investment advice part element of it also. So it's about building the plan, making sure that we understand what your financial goals are, and then choosing the right pension provider for you. Because
Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all. We don't choose the same pension provider everywhere. Depends on where you're living, where you're going to retire, what currency you may need the pension in, and how much you have in the pension.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jake.